everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. Hopefully you guys are doing well. Happy Sunday, y'all. We are going to be talking about the astrology of January 15th through the 22nd of January 2023. Big things taking place this week. Big outer planet kind of changes. We've also got this new moon in Aquarius. That's probably the big headline, but there's several other really significant transits going on that I'm going to be breaking down throughout the week. So for the most part, I'm going to be talking to you guys about just how to plan the week ahead, how to navigate kind of seeing what's going on as we're coming into this new moon. And I'll give you guys some more information as the week goes on. But yeah, major headlines would be new moon in Aquarius. So big new opportunities for fresh starts. The very first new moon of 2023, at least the calendar year. And it's going to be in the fixed air sign of Aquarius. Really interesting because it's going to be taking place at 1 degree. So that's really referencing, I think, this preparation for what we're wrapping up in Capricorn and moving into Pluto and Aquarius in just a few short months. And as you guys know, new moons are new opportunities and fresh starts for setting intentions. So I'm going to start off first by taking you guys through the transits for the week, and then I'll wrap up by reading you guys some really significant Sabian symbols for this week. I'm going to be then talking about the new moon, and I'll take each and every one of the 12 signs through this particular new moon and tell you where there is an opportunity for a fresh start. Maybe it's just me. It seems a little spooky, to be honest with you. Like some of the conjunctions to Pluto, the fact that Pluto is going to be in very close proximity within a 3-degree conjunction of the new moon. We're coming into a balsamic phase. We're going to see actually today kicking off with the moon in conjunction to the south node. So we're going to have some really fun fixed T-squares today and tomorrow. Happy Sunday. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at what we've got going on for the week ahead. So as you guys, especially those of you guys who are a part of my Sunday morning crew, as you're waking up in the morning, the moon is in Scorpio, so it's going to change the moods, right? We're having the moon go through a Mars kind of Pluto-related sign. And the moon in Scorpio is dealing with the shadow self, okay? What's uncomfortable, what's scary, what we need to purge, and there can definitely be some moods that can be a little kind of heavier throughout this transit. As the moon moves into Scorpio, we're going to see throughout the day today that it's inching its way closer to the south node. So what's going to come up is like a detoxing, a clearing, a purging, a letting go, pretty strong all the way into pretty much Monday morning. So all day long, you guys are going to be kind of sitting with this. It's going to give you an opportunity, I think, to be like, okay, where do I get a jump start on the week ahead? Where do I do some clearing out, right? Some detoxing, some cleansing, cleaning out the garage, cleaning out the closet, right? So there is a sense of releasing and letting go. Collectively, though, okay, what we may notice is that fear and kind of tension might be running the day. So be mindful of your moods and how you're kind of moving throughout the world, people picking up on that and kind of spitting it back out. So everybody's going to kind of be in that today, unfortunately. The other reason why is because as the moon goes into Scorpio, it's also going to be in an inconjunct to Jupiter in Aries, also a Mars-related sign, but that magnifies and it feels very agitating. And so I'm all about making lemonade. This is an interesting opportunity with Jupiter and Mars in a sextile. Finally, Mars has woken up. Mars is direct, no more Mars retrograde. These two planets are going to sextile each other, forming a focal point to the south node in Mars. So this is a yod. And really what it's saying is that while the moon is in Scorpio, we got to look at what's going on with Pluto, okay, the more modern day ruler of Scorpio, and we got to look at what's going on with Mars. So the fact that this moon south node conjunction is the focal point of this yod, it's basically saying, look, there's going to be some uncomfortable conversations. There's some things we need to say, some stuff we have to get out, some things that we have to clear. So it might be great for journaling. It might be great for also just doing some breath work. It's also really great to just move around, right? So we can kind of like let this kind of gunk flow through us. Many of you guys may have already seen this video, but I'm going to reference it again. I talked a lot about Mercury's retrograde specifically, and the inconjunct or the quincunx that Mercury is making to Mars. Both of these planets are at 8 degrees and they're just rubbing each other the wrong way. So I talk a lot about in this video that I put out last week how it brings up this energy of being agitated and like wanting to speak up but not knowing how. And Mercury's kind of doing a little bit of like a scramble right now where he's trying to go back and receive or retrieve information. And it's in the sign of Capricorn. So it's about who's responsible, who's in charge, who's making decisions right out in the world. Like there's no coincidence. And if you go back and you see my videos, both during the Mercury retrograde video, which I did weeks ago, and this inconjunct video, I talk about how Mercury's backtracking Capricorn before it comes into conjunction with Pluto, and as it's in conjunct Mars, was likely going to materialize as some kind of like data or information drop or some kind of scandal or something that comes out about somebody in politics. Obviously, it's a really broad prediction, right? There's always something kind of like scummy going on with them. But it did manifest, actually, interestingly enough, as right around the time that this kind of exposure came out about Biden's documents that was in his, some say it was in his garage, some people say it was in his Corvette and it was locked. But look, Mercury and Capricorn, like political kind of documents at an 8, something secretive, the inconjunct to Mars, where the way that they're putting it out into the media, it's like they're trying to get a hold of the situation before the media kind of runs with it. But Mars can also represent a vehicle, right? And it's a changing story because Mercury is kind of going back and forth. So interesting example of how astrology works. But this does kind of talk about, as we go through the 15th, this is going to be landlocked for a hot minute. It'll be a couple days that we'll see them in conjunct each other at an 8. So if you have anything around 8 degrees of Gemini, 8 degrees of Capricorn, pay attention. There is like this tension. The only way I can like really express it is like, and this is how it's manifested for me, just unbeknownst to me, kind of subconsciously, is tension and like grinding, right? Because Mars can be friction. So grinding your gears mentally, or grinding your teeth, like getting anxious and not realizing that you're holding back from saying something. So pay attention to that energy. It's also part of what's adding to the aggravation in the skies. Thankfully, the South Node Moon connection is sextiling Mercury. So we've got a double yod here. That's why I'm so interested in the inconjunct, because we have it this way to the moon, but we have it a longer period of time for the Mercury sextile, the South Node, clearing the mind, clearing the decks, clearing everything out in regards to what is secretive or maybe even criminal. And it's creating a yod, and it's a focal point to Mars. Anybody else notice just how there's this significant shift? Like we're on the brink of a shift right now with media, with independent media, with mainstream media. There has been this almost like somebody pulled the lever and they're hitting the brakes. And I think everybody's starting to kind of realize that there are certain things that people have been asking questions about or questioning or challenging that's now starting to like come out in the open. Like literally watching like White House correspondents and, you know, people in the press room that are just flat out asking the White House correspondent just flat out questions, people asking Joe Biden also flat out questions about these documents. You're going to see people who are just going to be kind of gaining the momentum when it comes to communicating and asking questions and questioning those who are in charge. That's the inconjunct to Mercury. So that will continue. If you want to see more about that, you want to know how it's playing out in your life, check out that video, because I go in depth and talk about how it's about a war on words, also a war on being able to question narratives just in general, and like critical thinking. All right, so taking you guys now to the 16th. So let's go into Monday. Moon's still in Scorpio. That's going to hang around. It gets a little rocky here, guys. So just know that Monday is a little uncomfortable for a number of reasons. One is the moon has passed the South Node. So we've already kind of decompressed, cleared out, released, let something go, like dealt with some kind of trauma or something that was challenging. Likely we can wake up on Monday morning and find that there is just like some real chaos that's brewing financially, in in the world, because Scorpio does deal with debt, taxes, resources, other people's things, and losses is the South Node. So I'm anticipating Monday to be quite a rocky day potentially, and we're going to see this kind of roll through really all the way up until the second half of January. So it's really just kind of getting started. The moon in opposition to Uranus and Taurus is a little emotionally destabilizing. It's like adjusting and negative emotions and fear coming up as a result of potential shifts and changes with our third dimension. Watching the stock market and what's going on, how it's going up or how it's going down, right? That there is some dramatic change. It's interesting to me that the moon is in a square to Venus, so it's kind of pushing like the greed factor. So there is going to be a sense of people wanting to get more, wanting to get more, wanting to get more. But how far do you push it? That's the question. On an emotional level, moon opposed Uranus also means we're just having a difficult time feeling emotionally settled and kind of feeling grounded. And then as the moon continues through Scorpio, it's going to then come into a square with Venus. And the moon square Venus can just really create this kind of conflict revolving around nurturing ourselves versus what we need for other people. But it's going to reenact a fixed T-square. So we've got moon opposed Uranus, moon square Venus, and Venus is the focal point of this square. So if you catch it on Monday morning, you're going to notice that there's a sense of being like, I need more love. I need more sweetness. I need more opportunities for harmony, for relationships. Friendships. Remember, Venus in Aquarius wants freedom. It's not really a lovey-dovey romantic type of placement. There is a sense of needing quite a long leash, needing to be able to have its space, going and having harmony and connecting with groups of people. And Venus in a square here, still coming off of that square to the nodes. I think a lot of us have been like realizing that we're going to get a lot further with peace and harmony and love and union, right? Together with other people, working hand in hand with other people, than conflict. Still not easy. Venus is just getting ready to finish her gauntlet. If you guys remember, like a week or two ago, I talked about how she'd square the nodes and she'd square Uranus. So she's coming out of that now. There's probably been some upsets over the weekend with that Venus square Uranus, and now Venus is heading towards her conjunction with Saturn. So on Monday the 16th, we're going to see the moon oppose Uranus, square Venus, and also square Saturn. And the Saturn-Venus is the focal point. So interesting because, you know, Venus rules the North Node. So as Venus approaches Saturn, some of us, okay, there's two ways to look at Venus, Saturn. Some of us might see the full kind of blossoming and blooming of what our Saturn and Aquarius lesson is. So you want to look at Aquarius in your chart. Not only is this important because the new moon's going to be there, but it's important because, you know, Pluto is going to be going into this particular sign as well. So lots of Aquarius energy, really trying to get our attention and kind of prepare us over these next few weeks to set some intentions for when Pluto goes into Aquarius. The downside of the Venus-Saturn can be, you know, feeling kind of like lack of love, lack of financial support, lack of commitment, lack of friendships, unity, something of that nature. Definitely a little bit harder if you're a Venus-based chart. So if you happen to be a Taurus or a Libra rising, you might feel that crunch a little bit more. I think I talk about that in the horoscope. So if you guys are wondering how that's going to play out, you can check that out. And I'm going to talk to you guys about the Sabian symbol because it'll be conjunct at 24 degrees. Now, as we move to the 17th, so this is Tuesday, we see the moon continue to go through Scorpio. Late at night, we're going to catch a trine from the moon to Neptune. So as it's coming out of the square to Saturn, the way out is the trine to Neptune. Emotions, sensitivity, lots of water, you know, clearing, soaking, crying, that stuff can kind of happen. Interesting that it'll trine Neptune, but it's going to square Saturn. So thankfully for most of us, really late in the evening, early morning, going into the 17th, it's going to be happening while we're sleeping. But still, that seems to kind of suggest there's still some rockiness going on with financial situations going into Tuesday. I, for one, have thought for some time that the Mercury retrograde and the approaching Saturn-Venus connection and Sun conjunct Pluto, like we're going to start hearing more, especially in the United States, because this is all hovering around our Pluto point, our Pluto return, of like seriously being in financial and economic strait. Like there's going to be some real issues with funding and being able to maintain. I think if I remember correctly from what I've heard, there was like talk about the fact that we're just like really hitting that limit, which I feel like we've been saying for decades, when it comes to our debt ceiling, right? And like how much we can continue to go over budget. So I think it's going to become more of an issue, especially we'll hear more about this as planets come into conjunction with Pluto. And by the time we're getting to the second half of 2023, looking into the future, you know, into like Cancer season, right when the nodes change signs and we're going to have a new moon in opposition to Pluto, July 2023 is a time to really watch in the US markets, because that's when just all hell really starts to break loose, unfortunately. All right, so staying on topic with what's going on the 17th, we wake up, you know, with the moon just exiting Scorpio. So depending on where you are, it looks like that lunar ingress into Sagittarius is going to be happening later in the afternoon. Okay, so somewhere around 1:30-ish on the East Coast, and earlier in the day on the West Coast, the moon goes into Sag. So automatically it's a little bit more positive and optimistic because we're dealing with a Jupiter-based sign. We are also going to be seeing that the moon in Sag will immediately start coming into a trine with Jupiter. So it enhances the optimism. Things feel larger. We're focusing on global matters. We're focusing on belief, philosophy. So we get a nice little pop there, a little bit of a reprieve. But as the day goes on, we see some other things that start kind of happening. One is that going into the evening, the moon starts approaching an opposition to Mars, okay? So this feels like a little emotionally combative. So we might be finding that we're a little restless as we're trying to go to bed at night on the 17th. There can be a sense of, the internet being ablaze with some kind of global news or anything in regards to travel, particularly airplanes. I know I've said this a lot, but I'm going to keep saying this. We're still coming off of eclipses from Sag and Gemini. So as this has been reactivated with the Mars retrograde, we're still hearing in the media about issues in regards to transportation. We're seeing flights getting grounded. We're seeing issues that were happening also with the network and the ability to fly safely. That's not done. We're still going to see more of that. You guys may see a second act of something like this on the 17th, or that just kind of hitting the news. But for the most part, I think we're feeling more optimistic. You just want to be mindful that if you are out later in the evening on the 17th, going into the early morning on the 18th, to me, this feels very rushed. There's something rushed about this. Moon opposed Mars. Like, hurry up, get in your car, go somewhere. Hurry up, print the story. Like, hurry up, send the email. Like, there can be a sense of just feeling like emotionally like you're being pushed out of your comfort zone. Okay, so then we get into the 18th. This is going to be Wednesday, and this is where things get kind of spooky. So yes, it's 3 a.m., but that's when the sun moves to 28 degrees, so it's coming into conjunction with Pluto. Now, we've seen since 2008, pretty much the sun has conjunct Pluto every single year, so that's not unusual. But this is the later degrees of Capricorn, and this is the last time we're going to see this conjunction before Pluto goes into Aquarius. Yes, it will do-si-do. It will retrograde back into these degrees, and you are definitely going to see those who are in power really do everything possible to not give their power up. Big business is going to try to get stronger. Political figures are going to try to kind of rein in more control. I'm going to read you guys the Sabian symbol for 29 degrees because I think it's interesting. I think 30 degrees is interesting too. And that gives us some insight in terms of what's going on right now. And it's also tied into the Mercury retrograde. But what happens when the sun comes into conjunction with Pluto? The death and the rebirth of the ego, the finally acknowledging what needs to die off, what needs to change, what needs to end. We sometimes see significant deaths of solar figures. So in traditional astrology, the sun would be seen as the king, but this can be like a really significant man in society, particularly somebody who may have been associated with the government or politics, or like a general maybe, or like a movie star. The ruler of this also is Saturn. Saturn is associated with Capricorn, and we see Venus approaching Saturn. So I think we are going to see that perhaps maybe within, you know, these next 2 or 3 weeks, a really significant public icon that transitions. It's hard to say if it's a man or a woman because Capricorn's a feminine sign and we've got Venus coming into conjunction with Saturn. So I'm wondering, like, is this us coming off of what's happened recently with Lisa Marie Presley? I wonder. I just wonder who it's going to be. If it's somebody who's already transitioned, because she was the daughter of Elvis Presley, who was the king. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, we might see another one. Specifically, this is at 28 degrees, which has a really strong connection to Cancerian topics. So it can be a really significant, like, mother figure. It can be a really significant person in our homeland. It really just kind of depends, but still pretty feminine with the Cancer degree being in Capricorn, and then also watching Venus approach Saturn. So I think we're going to hear about another significant woman needing treatment or possibly passing away, but it's got a masculine and a feminine aspect to it. But what does that mean for you, right? It means that, like, this is the time to just really open your eyes and be aware of what you're graduating from. I almost see, like, the late degrees of, like, this Pluto transit is like, now this is where the Phoenix kind of rises, because we've seen Pluto go through Capricorn for so long. Since 2008, there's been, like, lots of deaths and rebirths and regeneration and power struggles and dealing with power issues in society and those things that have power over us. So you might be realizing, like, okay, it's time to kind of face the monster in the closet. It's time to kind of deal with this thing and, like, release it and let it go. And that's the beauty, I think, of Pluto, is like that self-regeneration of what comes from that ending. And so for some people, it can be quite literally, Sun Pluto is in Capricorn, like, this isn't my responsibility anymore, or this doesn't have control over me, or I'm not afraid of this, or this isn't the boss of me, or I'm quitting my job, especially in Capricorn, right? And so the darker side of this, and I think a lot of people would agree, is that it's going to be highlighting, shining a light on where in government, politics, you know, big business, what have you, there is some scandal, or there is something very significant that is potentially being exposed. I've heard so many things, you know, throughout the last probably week or two, from sex scandals that are coming up in regards to police officers and misconduct, to you know, people who are being, you know, unjustly arrested and abused and being mistreated on the street, especially, you know, those who come from a variation of different ethnic backgrounds, and that can be Capricorn, because it does talk about people who have darker skin, but people in uniform, right? So Capricorn can be you know, cops. It can be people who wear badges. It can be people who serve in courts, people who are like judges who have some kind of like status. So I think we may hear more about some kind of scandal. And Pluto is crime, fear, sex, abuse, manipulation. So there are darker things that come with this. Personally, I feel like whatever is coming is being held back. The same way that we heard, not to keep referencing like Biden, but it's interesting to hear that story where they were like, well, we knew during the midterms that this is what happened, but we didn't want to let it out until later on. So Mercury retrograde, we knew, and now it's coming back up. What we will see, both when the Sun conjuncts Pluto, which will be on the 18th, and then later down the road when Mercury comes into conjunction with Pluto, which I think is going to be the beginning of February, it's like more of this information is just going to bust on out. And then Pluto is going to continue moving forward to 29 degrees, and then it'll go into Aquarius. So whenever a planet is at the late degrees of a certain sign, it's kind of like wrapping all that stuff up and going like, okay, this is what my overall has been on this particular topic. So what has Pluto left? Has it been a death and a rebirth of government? Has it been way too much control with top-down structures? And also, have we gotten to a point in society where we've just like sold ourselves and our souls to consumerism, right? Has that become a thing to the point where a lot of us feel like we're stuck in a job that's literally soul-sucking, Sun Pluto? So curious to see how that plays out. I'll read you that Sabian symbol in a second, but later in the day, right, Mercury goes direct. So here's some interesting things here. Within a couple days, this is going to be closer to the 22nd, so after the new moon, all planets are direct. Mars retrograde is over, Mercury goes direct on the 18th, Yes, you're still going to see shadow that's going to hang out for a minute. You're going to see shadow hanging out with Mars until March. But once we get to the 23rd of January, from now and for several months, it's not going to be until I think like the beginning of April, we have all planets direct. So that's basically like a time to like really get the show on the road. It's like now we actually start to see what was happening while Mercury was retrograde, what conversations were being had in private, what meetings were being had while Mars was retrograde, what was being cut or disconnected, where's there more frustration and anger and miscommunication. And then Uranus is going to go direct and it's going to come back online right after the new moon in Aquarius. Super powerful because it's going to be stationing. So guys, what you don't understand is that what has been under wraps in society and what you've been working on privately, internally in your own way is now going to like be unleashed. And now you can start really kind of doing all of that work externally. So we're going to see things just speed up exponentially over the next couple of months. But Mercury goes direct, so yay, right? Because if you've been waiting on wanting to sign something, moving, doing anything in regards to business, especially people who've been thinking about launches or quitting jobs or proposals, in theory, yes, it's good because it's direct. However, I would wait until we get after the new moon because you're going to see in a minute that the moon is going to move into Capricorn. It's going to be a balsamic phase. It's going to hit Mercury direct and we're given the opportunity to kind of like reconcile something or fix something or have that conversation we've been holding back and having. And as we start seeing Mercury wake up and come into like a trine with the North Node or Uranus, there's going to be other opportunities to have launches. So yes, Mercury's direct, but we got to wait just a little bit because in the midst of its stationing, it's in conjunct Mars, right? So it's like, it's still kind of frustrating and agitating and there's still some need to kind of like be either really taking our time and not rushing through things or asking questions about when are we going to launch this? How are we going to launch this? Who's going to manage this? Like we can't just rush through stuff. Mercury and Capricorn is going to check everything and everyone. Okay, so that direct happens on Wednesday. So let me take you guys to Thursday. This is when the moon in Sagittarius is going to start squaring Neptune. And that's going to be in the early morning, early. So we're looking at like between 12:30 a.m. and like, 4 a.m. Moon in Sag squares Neptune. So that can be a little emotionally discombobulating. There can be a sense of emotional confusion, being more sensitive. But it's going to be happening for the most part. Well, most of us, at least in the States, are sleeping. So we'll wake up later in the morning and the moon is at the later degrees of Sagittarius. So now we move to the 19th. That's really the biggest transit that's going to be happening on this day. Is pretty much just going to be that the moon changes signs. And I'm not saying that it's not active. Actually, the 19th and the 20th are quite active coming up to the new moon because the moon is going to have to come into contact with quite a few planets. Which will feel kind of busy and then it's going to feel like there's a breakdown. As you guys know, the moon is generally most comfortable in like Cancer or Taurus, right? So when it moves into Capricorn or when it started earlier this week today in Scorpio, it's going through some like rougher terrain, right? Because the moon represents our emotional sensitivity. So now we've got the moon moving into Capricorn, a Saturn-based sign. So what does that feel like? It feels heavier, like there's a lot of emotional work to do. It's harder to connect. We're not always being super emotional. We're being more logical, we're being more practical, right? And there's a sense of responsibility that comes with that Capricorn moon. So the first thing that happens as the moon comes into Capricorn is it starts building into a square with Jupiter. Oh, P.S. by the way, Jupiter's at 3 degrees. So Jupiter is picking up momentum already and it's hitting that same degree that we had last year when Mars and Jupiter collided at 3 degrees. So wherever Aries is in your chart, you're going to start feeling that really kind of peak up. But the moon's going to start immediately coming into a square with Jupiter, which means we're going to feel the feeling of responsibility, which is pushing us on a personal level to initiate and start something. So you're kind of antsy, right, during the balsamic period just before the new moon. And you're like, I got to work on something. I've got something I got to do. And you're like, timeline, schedules, like, busy work. Like that's just super Cap moon Mercury. And the moon is going to continue to keep moving through Capricorn. And it's going to square Jupiter around the evening, 7:30-ish. I'm on Central now, so that's going to be 8:30 Eastern, and closer to 5:30 on the West Coast. So the evening is interesting because it's presenting us with an opportunity. Sorry, I'm all over the place. There we go. It's presenting us with an opportunity with Moon Mercury to communicate and talk about our feelings, right? But in a practical, long-term, what are we doing? What are we creating? What's the plan type of way? And what I like about this is that it's going to trine the North Node. So the Moon trine its own North Node is we're going through the motions and taking the action and looking at the timelines and the potential work that we need to do to feel better grounded, to feel like we have better resources, right? Especially financially or food. And then the Moon is going to touch Mercury. So it's literally taking the emotions and the mind and saying, let's talk about how I feel. And the sign of Capricorn is going to be more logical and kind of serious is the feeling that I'm getting. But nevertheless, this is good. Now, we are calling this the balsamic period because this is right before we come into the new moon, because the new moon's going to be at 1 degree of Aquarius. So this is the time where people get grumpy. People are going to be grumpy. That's just going to be a theme on the 19th. You're going to notice that, especially going into the evening. You know, there can be having conversations, pillow talk, things like that. And you're like, I don't know, like that's a lot for me right now. Like, let me sleep on it. Or you're working into the evening. That's the other way that I can look at it. Moon's going to continue to go through Capricorn on Thursday night. It makes that conjunction to Mercury around the middle of the night, early morning. So some of you guys might wake up to some really interesting news on the 20th. And then the Moon's going to come into a square in the morning with Chiron. So there's like a sense of like, oh, I didn't like the way that conversation went last night. It doesn't feel good. You know, I got some harsh feedback, you know, from my boss, something like that about responsibility. So we've got the square to Chiron, which is kind of challenging emotionally. And Mercury is still in that in conjunct with Mars because damn, Mercury and Mars, they've gone direct, but they're hanging out at that 8th degree, right? Which is about change and transformation. So there is this like uncomfortable energy that's just kind of hanging out in the skies. It's just out there. Okay, so Friday is the 20th. The sun enters into Aquarius, so we are officially in Aquarian season, right? And Aquarius is the opposite sign of Leo, where the sun is comfortable. So we have the sun that is going to be in its fall, so no shade in Aquarians, but it's just a little rebellious. It can be a little different, a little out there, a little quirky. And obviously then the shift is going to be on the group, you know, the collective, rebels and doing things different and what's going on with humanitarianism and friendships and our goals and all that fun stuff. This sign is traditionally ruled by Saturn, so we're going to be really paying attention to what's going on with Saturn, but we're also going to be paying attention to Uranus. So if you're a traditional astrology wizard, it's totally cool. Look at Saturn. If you're into looking at the modern and the traditional ruler, we're going to look at Uranus. And in this situation, I think it's important because as we're coming into the new moon, Venus is conjuncting Saturn, so that's a really important signature as a part of the new moon. And Uranus is stationing. It's going to go direct the very next day, okay? So still in that balsamic phase, still kind of moody. You guys are feeling your feelings with the squares. The trick is with the moon trine, the North Node, and Uranus is, what do we do with that constructive criticism? How do we take that and utilize it to build stronger, better, right? And be more productive perhaps, or you know, talk about how we're going to go through the process of being able to kind of hash things out with our families, with our resources, with our relationships, so we can get on more solid ground. So try to work with that. But physical changes come from Earth trines. So then as the moon continues to keep moving through Capricorn, let's see, we're on the 20th. It is coming into a conjunction right before the new moon with Pluto. So it's going to keep doing its thing. We saw the moon trine Uranus earlier in the day. We're emotionally adapting. We see the moon come out of the square with Chiron, and it starts coming into a sextile with Neptune. So this is going to be late in the evening on Friday the 20th. And we're going into Saturday, and my goodness, Saturday is a day. So Saturday the 21st, as we're getting ready to come into the new moon in Aquarius, really interesting energy. The new moon's not going to be until the afternoon, but you wake up Saturday morning, or maybe you're sleeping in, whatever, but sometime around 9:30, to 11 Eastern time, you're going to start to feel the moon applying to a conjunction with Pluto. Moon, Pluto, emotional change, turbulence, crisis, dealing with fear, power struggles, right? And we've got a lot of outer planet action, guys. Look at this. Moon conjunct Pluto, a new moon conjunct Pluto, Venus conjunct Saturn, right? And we've got all of these outer planets online now. That one's going to go direct the next day. So now I'm going to start talking to you guys about the, I'll start talking to you guys about the new moon. But it's just fascinating that the balsamic phase in general, as we come into the new moon, it's like, okay, we're going to clear the decks. We're going to get really quiet, really peaceful. And we're going to create that space that's almost like womb-like so we can grow something, do something new. But the moon's got to come into contact with Pluto first, which is literally the epitome of what's going on with this Pluto transit, as Pluto is kind of passing the torch from the late degrees of Capricorn and is going into Aquarius. So I like that this is the first new moon of the calendar new year, right? Because I feel like a lot of people are looking forward to the year ahead. And new moons always usher in the opportunity for major shifts and major breakthroughs. But when you kind of throw this Sun in Aquarius in a conjunction with Pluto, it's like, yeah, we really do have to end whatever's been going on in the Capricorn area of our chart to make room for this passing of the torch. And now we're going to really focus on long change and transformation in Aquarius. So please look at where Aquarius is in your chart. Traditionally, new moons are also seen as like a time of introspection. So generally they invite us to go within and help us figure out what's really important to us on a soul level. And this is so true, especially with the Pluto-Sun conjunction, because it's going to be highlighting like what we need to change about our drive, our glory plan, our desires, our interests, what we love, what needs to totally transform. And I think that this new moon is unique because of this conjunction to Pluto, but also because Aquarius is very like innovative. That energy allows us to be able to reflect on taking things like a step further and turning our intentions into meaningful action. So this can be a really ideal time to be really focusing on our top like aspirations, because Aquarius is about getting to that higher elevation and being able to build tangible pathways towards achieving them. But it's only because we're going to bulldoze something else, right? So literally it's that Phoenix energy. It's like, okay, and that's over with. And now because that ended, here's this new thing. So we're really literally moving to the next chapter. This event, whenever we have a new moon, is marking the beginning of a new lunar cycle. And so, for all of us, it can have this profound shift in being like, okay, that got wrapped up. Now we're starting over. And Aquarius is a sign that is an air sign. So it is about free-flowing information, the internet, connections, anything that has to do with energy, right? It's like a Uranian sign. And I think it's going to be really awesome for us to be able to really apply some of the early degrees of the themes of Aquarius to be able to get this new start. It's gonna encourage a lot of us to be more independent. It's gonna encourage a lot of us to focus on bringing about justice and community and some kind of progressive action, especially in regards to like politics. You might notice that more because that's what Aquarius is connected to. Aquarius is the people, right? And so the spirit of Aquarius traditionally encourages us to question the status quo and come up with original ideas that may challenge traditional ways of thinking. So as you're approaching looking at whatever house Aquarius is in, you're gonna have to ask yourself, like, how am I gonna go about doing this? And I gotta do it differently. And keep in mind, it's on the heels of whatever has changed from Capricorn. So you gotta look at both houses. Now is an opportune time to reconsider your goals and make sure also that you're following through with plans that align with your true purpose of life. I can't stress this enough. This is gonna be so important, guys. We're gonna be seeing not only is Pluto changing signs, but the nodes are going to come into a square with Pluto. Jupiter is going to square Pluto. This is a time where we are being asked to really focus on detaching from what's going on in the third dimension, not getting kind of trapped up in the rat race and worrying about all the physical changes and implications, and focusing on not getting distracted and keeping our eyes on the prize and unity. That's very, very important when we're talking about Aquarius. This is also going to offer us the opportunity to explore unconventional options, especially for creative optimism and expression. So there's going to be an opportunity for us to be like more like, oh, well, you know, like what if I did it this way, or what if I did it that way, and like embracing change and doing things differently. And also honest communication. That's also a big thing that I can see with Mercury going direct. Aquarius has connections to innovation. I mean, it's got connections to inventions. And so I think that that's important because we're going to be seeing that this is setting the stage for being able to tackle some of our biggest issues as a society, but also within our own lives, and kind of figuring out or considering new approaches to things and really thinking outside of the box. And I think we're also seeing that with Mercury in a trine to the North Node. I think we're also seeing this with Mercury in a trine to Uranus. That's the other way that I look at it. You may want to consider adopting much more of like an entrepreneurial spirit as a result of this new moon for the next 28 days. And consider, you know, what new technological advancements you can be making in your life or your career. And just keep in mind that Aquarius can be a little bumpy because it has connections to Uranus. So there can be disruption. There can be, because of a disruptive event, it produces some sudden change. So I would say also just anticipate surprises. And try to go with the flow, right? And we've been seeing this really since the new year, but it's really going to make sense to you as we go through Aquarius season and then as we're getting into Taurus, because what I've seen is the last 2 or 3 years with Saturn being in Aquarius, those changes that keep happening with Uranus or even with just transits in Aquarius, it reverberates all the way into the spring, and then it's like the spring is the physical manifestation of that, if that makes sense. So there is a need to really focus on setting goals and becoming aware of our personal power, I think, with this new moon. Okay, so regardless, it's going to be exciting. Lots of possibilities, opportunities for reinvention, and this can be personal or collective. All right, so I want to read to you guys some really important Sabian symbols. So first, so just so you guys know, so I saw some other people were asking about this on the channel. If you ever see me reading a book and you want to know where you can get it or what I'm reading or what it is, you can always click on the links below. It'll take you to my Amazon storefront. I'm not really trying to sell things. It's just people always ask me what I'm reading. I try to keep up with this. So if you like the decks that I'm using sometimes or the books that I'm using, you can click that. You can go and pick up a book. This is the Sabian Symbols Screen of Prophecy. Basically, an astrologer got together with a clairvoyant and they went through all 360 degrees of the zodiac wheel. And there's a blurb which can be figurative or literal and how it relates to that particular degree. I work with the Sabian Symbols. I also work with degree astrology. So I do a little bit of a blend of the two. It works best for me because I'm clairvoyant. But if we're going to go in order, I want to actually talk to you guys first about the Sun-Pluto connection, because that conjunction is taking place at 28 degrees. Okay, so when we work with the Sabian symbol, we're going to round up because it's a never exact on the money. So 28, we would read 29. Why is that important? Because this conjunction is the last conjunction we're going to see before Pluto goes into Aquarius in the spring. For those of you guys who have this book and you want to read along, I will be reading 29 degrees of Capricorn. And I will also read to you 30 because I want to talk about what happens when Mercury shows up. But let's just talk about the Sun-Pluto connection. We'll reflect on this. 29 degrees of Capricorn. This is page 332. A woman reading tea leaves. Signature. The theme is a screen of prophecy. The symbol speaks to the divination and prophecy or desire to pierce the veil between the visible and the invisible worlds. The image of a woman reading tea leaves emphasizes psychic insight, intuition, and the interpretation of symbolic imagery. The keyword is in its signature, a Sabian symbol concept defined by Mark Edmund Jones in his occult philosophy as the indication of sequence of cause and effects and the potential convenience or the varying correspondence in any given situation revealed by an object or event at the forefront of attention, the symbol, or its significance in logical alertness, rational creativity, or intellectual psychometry. The Sabian signature is similar to the coincidence in time of two or more casually unrelated events which have the same or similar meaning, or the simultaneous occurrence of a certain psychic state with one or more external events which appear to be more meaningful which appear to be as meaningful parallels the momentary subjective state. At its highest, it represents exceptional intuition and the understanding of a deeper significance of events and situations. The accent is on divination and seeing into the future, trying to predict the outcome of events or get a handle on what you should be focusing on or may occupy your time. Your greatest advantage lies in paying attention to patterns and looking at things symbolically. Look for unusual convergences and be alert for the timing of things. Stepping stones would be insight, intuition, divination, discernment, forecasting, prediction, omens, revelation, and potential. So probably, I think you guys have heard me say this. This is one of my favorite Sabian symbols. This is what I named my business after, Beyond the Veil. You know, I think just making it more simplified, it's like the ability to look beyond the physical, right? This is Capricorn. And everybody kind of says like, oh, the psychic signs are connected to the water signs. Not necessarily. Capricorn, especially the later degrees, does talk about the ability to see everything. It has the highest vantage point, right? And it's also about tradition. Capricorn has, you know, its connection, its roots into old tradition. So, you know, tea leaves, being able to look into crystal balls, reading tarot cards, you know, looking at astrology, all of this stuff is trying to make sense of potentially what might be coming. So also the late degrees of Capricorn and that connection to Pluto is trying to shield perhaps some things that people are doing behind the scenes. And I'll tell you why I say this, okay? If we look at when Mercury comes into conjunction with Pluto, right as Mercury is coming into conjunction with Pluto, here's 28, okay? It turns into 29 degrees. So then it's going to take you to 30 degrees. And Pluto's going to hang out at this degree for not a very long period of time. It'll go back and forth over this degree. But what I'm really focusing on, what I am curious about, because I've been hearing about this recently in just like private meetings, we're hearing about like stuff that's not hitting the media in regards to like the Epstein stuff. We're hearing stuff that's not hitting the media also in regards to certain people who are associated with health mandates that are on trial. I'll just leave it at that. The World Health Organization meeting in private, making decisions also about digital passports and traveling and all of this stuff. Listen to this Sabian symbol. 30 degrees, okay? So once it hits 29, that's why I'm reading 30, that you're going to see more of this stuff that's being uncovered. And I guess what I'm getting at is as the Sun-Pluto conjunction is setting up, these things are going to start physically happening. We're just not going to hear about it until Mercury comes into conjunction with Pluto. So this will be closer to the beginning of February. Capricorn, 30 degrees, a secret business conference opportunity. The theme is an executive session. The symbol speaks to politics and the determination of individuals to control the course of events and resolve important issues through political alliances. The image of a secret business conference or behind the scenes meeting alludes to a power play or an attempt to determine the outcome of some situation by quietly or cleverly manipulating the personal resources at hand. The emphasis here is on psychological insight, a keen understanding of human behavior, tactical maneuvering. The symbol represents strategic planning and extraordinary administrative skills, abuse of power, hidden agendas, taking unfair advantage of others. The accent is on things going on behind the scenes. Secret private alliances may be involved. Your greatest advantage lies in keeping your plan to yourself until you're ready to put it into action. Line up and support before you begin. Guard against placing your personal desires above the best interest of the group. Don't try to manipulate others to achieve your own ends. Meeting, conference, consults, association, allegiances, administration, forums, hidden agendas, power plays, backgrounds, planning, strategizing, politics. Congress. Get ready, guys. There's going to be some stuff that's going to be coming up here, but it won't really be until we have those conjunctions. And even furthermore, as we're getting into July of 2023, we're going to start to see the real effects of some of this stuff, okay? So let's read for the new moon, because the new moon's going to be at 1 degree. So let me read to you guys 1 degree of, actually 2 degrees of Aquarius. So this is now reflecting on the new moon. There we go. 21 of Aquarius. Excuse me, 1 of Aquarius. So I'm going to read 2. All right, this is page 336. Aquarius 2, an unexpected thunderstorm. The keyword is accident. The theme is the probability of the improbable. The symbol speaks to potential and the fact that there are things in life that individuals simply can't control. It also speaks to the nature and inclination of all situations to eventually climax in one form or another. The image of an unexpected thunderstorm emphasizes the necessity that each individual develop a sensitivity to changing conditions and to be consciously aware and responsible for his own role in the scheme of things. There are no accidents. Implicit in this symbol is the inclination of people in crisis to come together for mutual support. On a practical level, this symbol can indicate a buildup of tension that results in an unexpected drama or plans washing out. It can also indicate crisis in some situation or relationship that results in catharsis or cleansing. At its highest, the symbol represents the ability to take charge in confusing or highly charged situations and bring things to an orderly and profitable conclusion. Watch for negative outbursts, emotional outbursts, temper tantrums, and troublemaking. The accent is on surprises and unexpected events. Things may not turn out the way you planned. Situations could reach a boiling point and emotions can be running high. Your greatest advantage lies in making the best of it and remind yourself that this too shall pass. Work with others and do what needs to be done. What really catches my attention is the fact that it's happening in a Uranian degree. Uranus is waking up. We are going to see the moon highlighting this. The ruler is conjunct Venus and Saturn. Could it be, oh my God, I didn't see this relationship coming to an end. I didn't see this person leaving me. I didn't see this account getting drained. I didn't see losing my job. Maybe. Could it literally be the possibility or the probability of an improbable thing that literally involves a lightning storm and electronics or the grid or power supply or power going down or some kind of glitch going on in the financial systems? Makes me wonder. Guard against allowing yourself to get carried away by your own feelings. Be careful not to let someone get your goat and prod you into losing your temper. Stepping stones would be surprise, chance, unanticipated happening, plans washing out, tension release, quickening, cleansing, emotional outbursts, instability, crisis, emergency, drama. Okay? This is where Pluto will eventually move into. So when Pluto moves into Aquarius, it's only going to go to 0 degree, but best believe it's going to come into conjunction with this degree, and it will eventually hit that with Venus and Mars in 2024. So the question is, I think a lot of people are looking at Pluto going into Aquarius being like, what's going to happen? What kind of a crisis is going to go down? Realize this, it's going to take 20 years to really see what Pluto does, right? We didn't know in 2008 the real extent of the corruption and the things that were going on with big business and media and politics. I mean, we knew it, but not to the extent that it is now. And ultimately, Pluto in Aquarius is to give power back to the people, but there can also be like this uprising and things that happen as a result of the very first kind of ingress into degrees. Okay, and then last but not least, the day after the new moon, this is important. I'll do videos on some of this stuff throughout the week. Venus is going to come into conjunction with Saturn. And so this is really interesting because I talked about this in my Venus video, Venus through the signs. I talk about how, she squares the nodes and then she squares Uranus and there's upsets, and then Venus comes into conjunction with Saturn and the moon is there. I think it's very similar to, I believe it was last year when Venus and Saturn connected, the moon was there as well. So whatever's going on the 22nd, so this is the day after the new moon, but we're still in that new moon energy. There is some sense of like really getting serious about what you're loving and what you're committing to, right? Emotionally, with relationships, with mother figures, with resources. I mean, we got so many planets here in Aquarius. And the dispositor of all of this is Uranus, and Uranus is getting ready to wake up. Uranus will go direct on the 22nd. So let's look at 25 degrees of Aquarius really quick, and then we'll get to analyzing the new moon. All right, so 25 of Aquarius. This is going to be page 359. I've talked about this so many times. I feel like I read a lot of the same ones to you guys, but they keep coming back up. So 25 degrees of Aquarius, page 359, a butterfly with the right wing more perfectly formed, the process of becoming. The symbol speaks to the individual difference and a man's ability to overcome handicaps through use of willpower and determination. The image of a butterfly with the wing more perfectly formed does not imply that the laughter unconscious and subjective side is defective, but rather that there's a fuller development on the right or conscious subjective side. The emphasis in this degree is noticing differences and using them to your advantage. The butterfly is a universal symbol of metamorphosis, immortality, and spirit. Thus, the image is poetic in its illustration, the never-ending process of spiritual growth and transformation. At its highest, it represents talent for creativity and capitalizing on imperfections. The accent is on different things and people could seem more peculiar and odd today, probably because I just read that in that video recently. But uniqueness, what makes you rare, you know, peculiar, original, distinction, style, prominence, variation, difference, consciousness. Collectively, right? Like learning to love imperfections. That's been like a real lesson, I think, for the Saturn transit for me, is being like, it's different, but I like it. It doesn't have to be like everybody else, and that's okay. Which is hopefully lending energy to being like, look, it's not about comparing ourselves to other people. It's not about wanting to be like other people. It's about doing what's best for us and being able to be kind to one another, even if we don't agree, we don't see eye to eye, and being able to appreciate what sets us apart and makes us different. Kind of a cool thing. I've seen like a real shift here in just like social media, and some people, some creatives that I follow who are like, yeah, I went against the mainstream, or I didn't agree with this, or I didn't do that. And I'm really glad that I didn't do X, Y, and Z. You guys can fill in the blanks. But I think that there's going to be more of that, of people really embracing what makes them different and unique, and also like where perhaps maybe being cast aside or, not included in the hive mind with that Venus Saturn, because some people might feel like that. Maybe a blessing in disguise. Maybe. I don't know. 24 definitely has this energy of dissolving and hiding and clearing things out, and perhaps enough people, if they start to feel like they're not a part of just following the herd, they kind of go in their own direction. They're developing their own communities and their own networks and, their own groups. And it's like, that's okay too. Certainly society with the Saturn Uranus squares have split. You've got people who are wanting to go more into the future and wanting to go more towards technology and more towards sacrifice and giving up. That's very Aquarius, doing without. And then you got more people going in the direction of Taurus, which is wanting more natural, wanting more peace. They want more calm. They want to have the ability to connect with like the earth, right? So you've got reality, to some extent, you could say reality, Taurus, the third dimension, and Uranus, Aquarius, it's like about the future. And so I think we're going to see more people that are going to be kind of feeling like, I feel good about the decision that I made, and speaking out about it. So that'll be interesting. We'll see how that plays out. Taking you guys now to the new moon. Let's look at this really quick because I have some notes. So the new moon is going to be in Aquarius. It's going to be January 21st, 2023. It's going to be at 12:53 p.m. Pacific time, 3:53 p.m. Eastern time. Obviously, I know we got people all over the globe, so check your time zones accordingly. If you're going to do any intention setting for the new moon, just do it anytime after that, right? You can even do it the next day as the moon is coming into conjunction with Venus and Saturn. It's not necessarily a bad time to like make a serious commitment to something that is your goal or something that you really love. Now, this will be at 1 degrees of Aquarius, which has a connection to like Aries energy. So it's quick, it's fast, it's independent, it's self-starting, right? So it's literally a new moon, which is a fresh start with an Aries energy kind of intertangled into that. Like I said, the biggest theme for me is the conjunction to Pluto. And I feel like with Pluto kind of like lingering in the background of this, it's like, okay, this ended. Now here's the real fresh start. So through the endings that we're getting through the Capricorn area of our life, we're being prompted to focus on new beginnings. Look at this. Aquarius party in the sky, right? Sun, Moon, Venus, Saturn. So we've got a stellium of planets that are going to be kind of hanging out there. And we're watching these planets approach Saturn, which is going to be crystallizing and kind of like really showing us like how solid we are, or what we've learned, or what the lesson is through Saturn's transit these last 2 years. the Venus-Saturn conjunction, which I think is really about serious commitments, but it can also be about separation, alienation, finding out who our true friends are, right? Saturn-Venus can be glue, but it can also be this feeling of finally seeing, like, we're reaping the reward. So especially for those of you guys who are Saturn-based charts, Capricorn rising, Aquarius rising, this is a positive transit because you've got Venus coming into conjunction. It's the Venus-based charts that are going to have a little bit more of a difficult time with this. Taurus and Libra rising, just pay attention. But crystallization, something forming, right? So it's like, you know, the business forming, the relationship or the group or the network forming. It can be, you know, new political alliances forming, right? For some time, I've thought that throughout some of these transits, it was going to be perhaps maybe the development of what's going to be a new party. And I'm still wondering if that's what's going to take place. Perhaps if we see enough kind of circus acts, we might see that happen. Saturn obviously is going to be about karma. So Venus Saturn is karmic situations playing out in money and relationships. Why do I say that? The ruler of Aquarius is Uranus, right? So not only are we looking at the Venus Saturn, but there's some kind of mutual conversation here with the fact that Uranus is in a Venus related sign, Taurus. So as these two come together, it's just kind of reinforcing the need to change and adjust and make shifts and, you know, focusing more so on our goals and what groups are coming together. That's helping support our physical reality, helping support our financial systems. Uranus stationing, so on the 22nd, so the next day, on Sunday, we're going to see Uranus go direct. So it's stationing at 14 degrees. So it's getting ready to wake up. It's very powerful. It's going to be interesting to see the moon the next day go further into Aquarius, connect Venus and Saturn, and then boom, Uranus comes online. So Uranus is kind of like a electrical current. It's not so happy in Taurus. It's kind of, you know, Taurus likes calm and steady, and Uranus is like high highs and low lows and high highs and low lows, right? 2 years of the Saturn-Uranus square. So something about Uranus stationing, which is literally about electricity. It's about collective groups. It's about, in Taurus, money, banking systems, cryptocurrency, right? I think we're also going to start hearing more and more and more about bonds and the bond market. And it's going to be stationing at 14 degrees, which is a degree that deals specifically with banks. Now, a lot of you guys know they've been testing the CBDC stuff over the last few weeks in certain parts of the world. They've been testing it in, I believe, in Africa. They're talking about trying to do more pilot programs and seeing where else they could potentially run this, trying to get digital currency through the central banks, making this digital convergence in money. So that's very Uranus and Taurus. So we may start to see or hear more about that. You guys may also hear more rules and regulations also in regards to property or our money. There's this, you know, proposal to try to kind of like nix income tax right now, or, you know, kind of totally just abolish the IRS. We'll see. I don't know. I think that's kind of far-fetched, but it's interesting to see that there's an incentive to do that as all these planets in Aquarius are putting pressure on Uranus and also the nodes. So it's helping bring back more money to the people. But is it? I don't know. We'll see. You know, how would they go about being able to kind of reorganize that? And how would we define, you know, paying taxes in general? For one, I think that it's good that they're talking about it, but when you hear things, and you're going to hear more things about money going missing and money vanishing, and we don't know where it is or what it was spent on, whether it's the Pentagon, or you're hearing this in other parts. There was another country in South America. It was like some major business in South America. There was like $4 billion that just went unaccounted for, right? You're going to hear more and more about that stuff happening and vanishing. And a lot of it's as a result of groups or crowdfunding or taking other people's money and what they do with it, or how they're gambling it, just kind of risking it away. So I have a feeling that this is a new moon that will run for a little bit. Like, you'll see for about 48 hours that this is a really interesting turning point, because it's going to come, the moon will come into conjunction with Venus and Saturn, and it's also still got to square its own nodes and Uranus. So actually the 22nd is a very, very interesting day. 1 degree of Aquarius, if you guys remember, back in December, or it was the solstice in the winter of 2020, Saturn and Jupiter entered into Aquarius together. It was at 0 degrees, so it was conjunct that degree, marking the new era of these conjunctions that are going to be taking place in air now. So now we're going to see the Saturn conjunctions. We're going to see a Saturn-Uranus conjunction that's going to take place, I think, in Gemini in a number of years. All of these outer Saturn kind of conjunctions will be taking place in air. So a lot of astrologers are talking about we're moving into a time period where it's now going to be more focusing on air. Information, intelligence, online stuff, being able to send and receive. It can be telepathic, but it can also be literally about the air. It can be about our atmosphere, especially in Aquarius. So it's mirroring, in a way, something we've really been working on since 2020. So if you reflect back to December of 2020, what new structures, right? Saturn, and new goals and optimism for the future and advancing in Aquarian type things were you focusing on? Think back to what was happening in 2020. I know it was a chaotic year, but at the end of that year, there was a sense of being like, oh, this is the new normal. I remember saying that, like really looking at things after, a good 9 months of the pandemic, being like, this conjunction says this is how things are going to go. So I made that decision that I was not going to start planning my life like things were just going to kind of turn back on. I was like, no, this is how it's going to be. So I have to keep moving forward. I'm glad I did that. But maybe you had the same experience. And so now you're kind of like tweaking whatever changes that you made at the end of 2020. And obviously that expansion and contraction together is really great because you've got somebody who's really optimistic like Jupiter and somebody who's really kind of focused on stability and timing and law coming together. And so we can see expansion and contraction together in Aquarius, which is about kind of raising our vibration and our goals. Also humanity, consciousness. A lot of this has been about consciousness raising, people waking up. That's been a really, really big theme. And then last but not least, like I said, it's preparation for Pluto entering into Aquarius. If you guys didn't catch my 2023 year preview, I talk about how one of the bigger transits is going to be Pluto going into Aquarius. This is going to be in March. Okay, I don't know about you guys, but after 2022, I was like, that year went by so fast. So little over 2 months from now, March 23rd, Pluto goes into Aquarius. Does something happen that day? I don't know. I can't tell you it'll be exactly that day. But you'll want to get into the habit of paying attention to when planets go through 0 degrees of the fixed signs because it's going to square that. It'll be brief. It'll play peekaboo. It'll go in and out. But what's interesting is that Pluto's going to go into Aquarius and then the nodes are going to move to start squaring Pluto, right? And the sun's going to square Pluto. So end of April, the nodes will square the sign. The nodes will change signs and square Pluto. End of April through July is highlighting that nodes square the Pluto. It's like a hard change. And Pluto goes back into Capricorn saying, no, wait, we don't want people breaking free, or we don't want a new internet, or we don't want, new groups of people coming together. Like, need I remind you, same transits we had during the American Revolution, same transits we had during the French Revolution. So it's inevitable, right, that we're going to see some sense of people being like, nope, this has got to change. It'll be slow at first, but man, is it going to be loud, because we're going to see not only will Pluto square the nodes, but as soon as Pluto moves into Aquarius, here's Jupiter. And it's going to be as a result of, I think, what might be unintentional disclosures about money and banking and where our money is going and what's been done with it and the future of money. And I think if enough people push back and go, no, I don't want to eat bugs. No, I'm not going to get rid of my gas stove. No, I'm not going to just opt for an electric vehicle. No, I'm not going to put a chip in my arm. And a lot of this stuff sounds crazy, but watch what starts happening in the spring going into the summer of 2023. So I think it's just a matter of whether or not we want to deny some of the things that are going to start coming out in the world. And it's definitely going to be about currency and money and exchange and our bodies. A concern that I have also, and I'm waiting to see more of this kind of coming out, but there's like talk about like 6G, which is crazy to me because I feel like 5G has been like such a thing, but now there's talking about 6G and learning more about how we have the potential with the energies within our bodies almost to be like using those microcurrents to kind of like charge things. So like we are the batteries for stuff relating to 5G, which is really scary when you think about it, because Taurus talks about what's natural in the body. And we're looking at these conjunctions coming into contact with Uranus, and it's squaring Pluto. So people being like, no, we don't want that. That's not natural. Or what are the effects of it? Remember, Pluto can also be about radiation. So as we start seeing some of these squares, you know, there's going to be disclosure about just how much radiation is coming from internet routers and our phones and all these things that we're using, and the Bluetooth and the Apple stuff and all those things, and like realizing that it's having a real effect on our physical bodies, our frequency, and also our surroundings, our planet. So a lot more people are going to be opting to be like, I want to spend time in nature, right? And also probably it not sitting well with them where technology, your minds are going to be blown with some of the stuff that's going to be coming out with technology. So with Pluto going into Aquarius, you're going to realize that complete jobs are just going to get wiped. Like the service industry, like you're going to start seeing fast food and going to places, and customer service is going to be robots. Going to banks, it's going to be screens. This is the new future. So you start to put the pieces together, if you can read through the line, between the lines, and wonder, well, what has the incentive been over these last few years, right? Like, why has there been this incentive to like disrupt the global markets? Possibly because there was this rollout of technology coming, and so many people who are considered to be useless eaters potentially will no longer have a place to be kind of doing these jobs. So if you're wondering, like, what's the positive of all of this? Well, crisis does prompt a lot of us to want to make physical change, but start focusing on what you physically can do in the third dimension. Can you grow food? Can you knit? Can you sew? Can you weld, right? Can you fix things and remodel things yourself? What are you doing in the third dimension physically? And what are skills and things that you can do that we may not have, done digitally, like something that you can do that might even be more creative or artistic, something that's also like pleasurable. So it's gonna be different for each person. But I think that this new moon is just prompting us and getting us ready for what's getting ready to change. A lot of this will make sense when we get into the full moon in Aquarius. It'll be down the road 6 months from now in the summer. You'll start to see July, August, and September. You're going to be like, whoa, all of these things are happening. Obviously, because it's a new moon that's going to be happening in an air sign, you want to work with the element of air. So I think of like bells, chimes, working with the element of air in writing intentions, mantras, breath work, any of this stuff is going to be really helpful. In getting that information out there, and anything that's going to raise your frequency. So if you're somebody who's like to work with like binaural beats, or you like to work with like sound healing, or you like to work with like little gadgets and little frequency machines, like that's really wonderful for this as well. And anything that involves groups and other people and coming together with other people and intention setting or wishes can also be a really wonderful thing that you can do. But writing, speaking, sharing, right? Now, I'm sure you guys want to know who this is going to affect the most. Obviously, because this is at 0 degrees of Aquarius, it's going to be affecting anybody who's got anything from 0 to 2 degrees of Aquarius. So sun, moon, rising, right? Especially with your birthday. Happy birthday. It's a new moon birthday. It's a big year. Everything's new. It's going to affect 0 to 2 degrees of Aquarius the most. If you have a personal planet there too, it's almost like a restart. And the conjunction is the most personal. So this is definitely about you personally. Okay. So your ascendant can be your body, your appearance, your outlook. Your sun can be your career. Your moon can be your home, your emotions, right? It's more kind of internal. If you have 0 to 2 degrees of Gemini or Libra, right? Sun, moon, rising, personal planet. Awesome for you. You're going to have a trine. You're starting to work your way into having Pluto come into a trine with your placements. It's really helpful. And I think it's going to be really supportive in being able to lend support to your natural placements that you have around 0 degrees. Trines just kind of flow with ease. If you have 0 to 2 degrees of Sag or Aries, you'll be experiencing a sextile. So this is going to be sextiling your energy naturally. It's going to be supporting you. So you have to kind of look at where it lands in your chart. Obviously, the predictions I'm going to be giving you guys, I'm a Western astrologer, so I practice Western astrology. I'm going to talk to you guys about this from whole sign perspective. If you are a Placidus user, you want to be looking at where 1 degree of Aquarius is in your chart. Okay, so some people are whole sign, some people are Placidus. I do whole sign because it's easier just for the presentation. But look at where 1 degrees of Aquarius is in your chart. So for the fire signs, like I said, it's supportive. Air signs, water signs, air signs, it's good for you, but water and earth, it's not the most important, okay? Because it's not directly impacting you, if that makes sense. All right, so I'll take you guys through the 12 rising signs. Let's do that really quick. So let's go ahead and start first with Aries and Aries rising. Okay, so you're going to have this new moon. It's going to be in Aquarius at 1 degree of Aquarius. Yes, I know it's like a degree short, but it's easier because it's whole sign. You're going to have a new moon at 1 degrees of Aquarius in your 11th house. This is about goals, friends, associations, but I think it's about dreaming big and group support. Okay, so keep in mind for all the 12 signs, yes, you have this new moon in Aquarius, but it's on the backs of something that's wrapping up here. So you may be quitting your job, focusing on joining a group, starting your own business, working with a friend, letting go of responsibility. Like there's something going on there that's just shifting. And you're realizing that there's something that really needs to shift in regards to your career or what you're doing in terms of out in the world and your reputation, that you need to reorganize or change to make more time for friends, groups, support, and just being able to see your dreams fully kind of manifest, right? Like that's really, really what this is about for you right now. At the time, Saturn is coming into conjunction with Venus, so it's about who supports you, what partnerships, or how partners help support your goals, business partners, romantic partners, friends. And then you've got Uranus that's stationing in your 2nd house, and it's about your values and your money and your resources. So it can be a little challenging because there can be a sense of you being like, well, how do I fund it? And how is this going to work? And how's it going to come together? Like, just stay the path, you know? Now Mars is direct in your chart, in your 3rd house. So you're feeling like you can communicate and you're ready to take action. And something's not setting right with you in terms of superiors in the workplace, or perhaps even like a parent or just an authority figure. And you're like, you know what? I just really got to break free. So really focus on dreaming big and what's coming in terms of some of these groups that you're building that can be really amazing in helping you kind of further what's going on with your career. Good luck. We've got Taurus and Taurus rising. What's going on, Taurus? This is a big one for you, Taurus. You have a new moon in Aquarius. It's in your 10th house. And obviously this is where Pluto is moving to. For all the fixed signs, like hold on to your shorts. But especially for you, Taurus, because you got Pluto that's getting ready to go into Aquarius soon. So you're prepped and you're ready, and you know there's a big change coming with your career, right? And you know it's like go big or go home time. And you're really kind of coming into some really powerful unions because Pluto rules partnerships. So if you're in a business partnership, if you work with your spouse, if you have like a public reputation, anything like that, there's just a lot changing where you have a lot of growth coming in your career. What's interesting is that the new moon is basically saying, okay, let's get the show on the road. Let's set these intentions now. Let's focus on being able to kind of grow your public image, being able to set new intentions, getting ready to launch new businesses, getting ready to go to new job interviews. And you're just ready to level up across the board. Now, what's interesting about this is Saturn and Venus are coming into a conjunction right around the time that this new moon happens. And Venus rules your chart. So it's literally you are Venus. So Venus coming into conjunction with Saturn is, where is this new shift in terms of your career about you being a guide, about you being a guru, about you teaching, about you publishing, about you mentoring, about you traveling, teaching, and like your philosophy, like something like that's manifesting right now. So now is the time to set intentions in regards to that. Yes, the Venus Saturn is you're like, oh, I have to do this thing. And like, you know, I don't want to go back to school. I don't want to get the degree, or it's going to take me too long to publish the book, or I don't know if I'm ready to teach, right? And you're kind of resisting, but it's like really good for you. It's going to be really good for your growth. Uranus is stationing in your sign, honey. And it's basically saying like you're a little on edge, like nerves are a lot, but you're also excited and you're also feeling like the shift is coming. Thankfully, you're out of the Venus squares. So now you're perhaps, if you've been on the path of being like, yeah, I know what I'm doing, now you're getting ready to get this recognition. right? So you're getting some like recognition, possibly even on like a bigger or a wider stage. Professional goals and your beliefs are shifting. And so I think that this is a really awesome time to kind of really start preparing for what your vision of what this brand new opportunity in your career is going to look like. Good luck. We got Gemini and Gemini rising. We have a new moon in Aquarius in your 9th house. It's in a sister sign. I like it, especially if you're a 0 to 2 degrees Gemini sun, moon, or rising. You're going to experience trines. You're already kind of getting a trine here with Mars, so that's really incentivizing you to just kind of get active. What will this bring you, right? New moon in the 9th, new opportunities to really think about your beliefs, where you're traveling, what you're writing, what you're learning, where you're publishing. It can be setting the stage for calling in a new teacher, a mentor, or a guru. If you need some kind of legal assistance, you may start that after this new moon. The ruler of this obviously is Saturn. So you got a Venus-Saturn conjunction where I think for a lot of you guys, it's about your spiritual or religious beliefs. And it can also be about teaching or completing some kind of education or foreign travel. I also feel like it's something that's going to bring you some kind of sense of joy or fulfillment because of the connection to your 5th. Now, Uranus is also the co-ruler of this, and it's in your 8th house, excuse me, it's in your 12th house. So that's why I feel like it's about philosophy, what's going on with the world, writing about how you see the world, how you've experienced things, teaching other people. Like it can be very introspective and philosophical with the 12th and the 9th house kind of getting highlighted. But all that energy is super yummy if you have Gemini placements. And I think it's like you getting excited about being able to share with other people what your goals are, what your drive is, where you're going, what you believe in, and like you can be teaching people at the same time. So this can bring foreign friends, opportunity for education, and a change in your beliefs. I like it. Good luck, Gemini. We've got Cancer and Cancer rising. We've got a new moon happening in Aquarius in your natal 8th house. So obviously Aquarius naturally creates a quincunx in conjunct to your ascendant. 8th house represents change and transformation. Aquarius is sudden fluctuations with finances, sudden fluctuations with friendships, right? Dealing with death, taxes, grief, loss, but realizing that it's a part of life, right? So it's a part of life. I think that the new moon here is asking you to embrace change. I think it's asking you to really reflect on a situation in regards to shared or joint money or resources ruled by both Saturn. And so Saturn-Venus is coming into contact. So it's about clearing the decks in regards to money owed to you, money that you may be requesting from family or support from family, clearing some kind of family karma, especially because Saturn rules your relationships. It can be about feeling like you're really finally done or ready to detach or let go of something that's affected you emotionally or affected your resources or your sense of security. This is also kind of co-hosted by Uranus and Taurus, which is getting ready to go direct, which is the ruler of your 8th house. So it's like, I think you're realizing there needs to be a change either in a financial or maybe a sexual relationship. There needs to be a change in a friend dynamic and kind of like learning to kind of like cut your losses and let something go. The positive in this is that for whatever reason, it can also talk about something coming your way. So keep in mind, like with Venus and Saturn coming together and Pluto going into the 8th house, some of you guys are looking at, well, I need to, deal with an estate or inheritance or an insurance matter, or finding out that, money is coming your way or property is coming your way. So that can happen as well. But embrace change and transformation and know that change is going to come very quickly for you. And this can be in the form of other people's money as well. So it can be partners, business partners, things like that. Good luck, Cancer. We've got Leo and Leo rising. All the Leo risings are like, so you got a new moon in your 7th house in your opposite sign of Aquarius. So this is good because it sets the stage for new opportunities in relationships. So if you're single and you're looking to mingle and meet somebody, it's a great time to plant that seed. If you're in a relationship and you need a refresher, it's an opportunity to kind of refresh things in an existing relationship. If you're looking for new clients, if you want to put out new services or new offerings, if you're looking for a new astrologer, a new therapist, something like that, a new moon can bring that in your 7th house. What's interesting is Venus is coming into conjunction with Saturn. So to me, it seems like you're anticipating a status change, or there's some pressure on like sealing the deal in a relationship. It's like, are we getting married? Are we launching the business together? Are we going to make this work? Are we going public? That kind of stuff, because you have both your 7th, 6th, and your 10th house lord. It's not all rainbows and butterflies. I know there's some Leo risings out there that are like, no, it's me saying I'm done with my relationship, and it's you alerting the world, because this is hosted by Uranus. We don't work together anymore. You know, we split, or, you know, we're going our separate ways. We're separating. Yes, that can happen, right? Why? Well, Pluto's coming into your 7th house. And just because Pluto's transiting your 7th house does not mean that a relationship has to end or that somebody has to die. There is just a profound shift and a transformation in your relationship. It can also be your public image. This can also be about hashing things out with family, right? Because Pluto rules your 4th. But with all of this energy in your 7th house and a new moon and planets that are squaring the North Node in the 10th, which is where you're going, and it's squaring your South Node in your 4th, which is what you're moving away from, you're looking for relationships that are going to empower you. You may also have like really close friends, Aquarius, or partners, 7th house, or clients that are just going through some kind of crisis or some kind of change. So you can stay in a relationship and watch them go through that. For the most part, though, I think that this is going to be about serious decisions being made in regards to who you're willing to kind of present yourself with out in the open, and really choosing people who are going to empower you. So if you need a clean slate, you can get it. But this may also bring up little bit of turbulence, and you're going to see it'll be Cancer risings and Leo risings as the nodes square Pluto. If relationships are not healthy and they're toxic, they got to go, right? And old, outdated ways of looking at relationships got to change as well. Good luck. We got Virgo and Virgo rising, new moon in Aquarius taking place on the 21st in your natal 6th house. The 6th house, health and routine, right? So if you're like, I really need to commit to going to the gym, I really need to commit to elevating my routine, I need some digital stuff or some technology or a digital schedule, or I need to be, you know, finding a new flow in my office space. I need to reorganize the furniture, right? All that stuff is 6th house. This is also habits. Venus coming into conjunction to Saturn. I feel like this is about you investing in your health. This is also investing in having a healthier daily routine. So you might join a gym. You might go with a friend and commit to a spa or a club. You might be committing to eating better. Something's changing there. And for some of you guys, it can produce new jobs, you know. Finally, Mars is direct in your 10th house. So if you've been back and forth with a job or making a decision, it can get easier. We can find that there's more clarity in terms of what you want to do. And I'm loving that it's trining into your 10th house, because you've got air placements in what's traditionally earth houses. So now you can go, I'm making a decision definitively. I'm choosing this and not that. And it can be choices in terms of your habits or choices in terms of your schedule. Obviously, the ruler is Saturn. Saturn's conjunct Venus. That's why I say you're investing. This can also be getting help or support with financial situations. Maybe you're spending a little bit more money on organizing, cleaning, labeling things as well. That might happen. And it's kind of co-sponsored by Uranus, which is in your 9th. So how are you upgrading and elevating your routine? So if you want to go back to school so you get a better job, you can. If you want to change your schedule and work more independently so you can travel, you can, right? So there's something kind of brewing there. Like I said, not the most significant for the water and the earth signs, but similar to Cancer, this in conjuncts your ascendant. So if you're an early degree Virgo rising, there's a sense of being like, I got to make sense of this crisis or this pattern or this habit. And it can be purely mental, by the way, because Pluto's kind of lurking nearby. So it can be how you're communicating or talking to yourself, or, you know, just mentally stressed out because of screen time, because Pluto rules your 3rd. Okay, good luck. We've got Libra and Libra rising. New moon in a sister sign in Aquarius, so you and Gemini really benefit from this. It's going to be in your natal 5th house, Libra, so it's going to be in your 5th house. So a new moon in the 5th house gives you the opportunity to focus more on joy, you know, happiness, creativity, taking chances, you know, love affairs, children, all of that stuff. So when you've got a new moon in the 5th house, it's a fresh start. Obviously, this is traditionally ruled by Saturn. Saturn's in the same house. Saturn's been moving through your 5th house for a few years, showing you that you need to commit to something that you love, being creative, loving yourself. Maybe there's been more responsibility with children. Maybe there's been more responsibility with creative projects, more difficulties with your love life. Unfortunately, this is a bit bittersweet for you, Libra, because it is positive because it's going to trine your ascendant or your sun or your moon. It's also positive because this is a positive house. Venus likes going through the 5th house. It has joy there. But Venus is approaching Saturn. So serious commitments in matters of the heart, making space for things that matter, right? So it can mean, I want to start this creative business. I need creative space and I'm going to find, a place that's bigger that has an office. But also it can mean that you're making decisions in regards to your love life and who you're living with. And there could be some turbulence with romantic partners in the home. There can also be a sense of committing more seriously to children. I mean, a new moon in your 5th house for a Libra and Libra rising. And with Pluto coming into the ascendant, a lot of Libras are talking about, pregnancy or trying to get pregnant. So certainly a new moon here can be an indication of fertility, especially within this next month, and then especially within 6 months as that matures into what will eventually be a full moon here in the summer. Ruled also not just by Saturn, but also Uranus. And so, there's been this push and pull between the money that you don't have and the money that you need and how you can kind of better grow or develop something that could be more fun. So there is a sense of like needing to detach from material outcome. There is also a sense with Uranus waking up in your 8th house of opportunities for windfalls and money that can come in that could give you the freedom to write the book, give you the freedom to, focus on your creative passion or your hobby, or just focus on spending more time having children or taking care of your kids. So it'll be one of those things. Good luck, Libra. For Scorpio and Scorpio rising, we have got a new moon in Aquarius in your 4th house. As with all the fixed signs, okay, so Taurus is big for career. Leo, it's going to be really big for relationships. Scorpio, a lot of your growth and development, Scorpio risings, is going to be more private. Like the glow up that you're going through, it's much more, because it's on the lower part of the chart, kind of personal and private for you. So a new moon in the 4th house is giving you the opportunity to focus on new home opportunities, new family, focusing on your roots, your lineage, your past, where you come from, all of that stuff. So if you're setting out to buy a home, if you're setting out to build a home, renovate a home, rent an apartment, get a new roommate, spend more time with family, that's kind of like the new moon intentions through your 4th. The 4th house is also ends of situations. So there can be a sense of like, as the new moon is getting ready to take place and Pluto is right behind, get ready, Scorpio risings, because Pluto is going into an angular house. Pluto rules your sign. So it's also saying like, okay, you've changed your mind. Now you're getting ready to change your home, change your private life. There's a profound shift that you may be creating in your home, right? So it might be you're the one who says, we need to completely just demo and rebuild the house, or we need to just get rid of it and start over, or, it's going to be a long period of Pluto through the 4th house. It's very similar is like a Pluto moon transit. Nevertheless, you'll see over the next couple of months that the nodes are going to square. And so it's putting the pressure on Scorpio risings to totally change and transform their home, their family, their roots, but the past. And you are the person who's going to be ushering in that change. What does this mean? It's good if, like I said, if you want to set new intentions for where you're going to be living. This is ruled traditionally by Saturn, which is in your 4th house, which is saying that there's some karma going on with a woman. There's some karma going on with a spouse. There's some karma going on with your relationship, maybe with your mother that you're working through. And it's co-hosted by Uranus, which is in the 7th house, also ruled by Venus. So you've seen this like push and pull between the past and the future, and where you're living versus where you could live, or relationships you've been in versus relationships that are developing. That storyline still continues a little bit, but it's making me feel like it's about trying to liberate you and bring you new exciting relationship opportunities that get you out of the past or get you out of a funk. Saturn will be leaving soon, so it'll get easier for you. But yeah, for the most part, this can be much more of an emotional kind of time and feeling like you're much more focused with just what's going on with home, especially if those of you guys who have moved recently, that retrograde is about still kind of getting settled, okay? Good luck, Scorpio. For Sagittarius and Sagittarius rising, we have a new moon that's going to be in Aquarius in your natal 3rd house. It sextiles your ascendant, so that's nice. So 3rd house is all going to be about powerful ideas and communication, and how your views of money and resources and self-esteem are changing. There in turn, it's helping you transform the mind and how you communicate. A new moon in the 3rd house can prompt you going, I need a new phone, I need a new gadget, I need to move, I'm going on a short trip, I am talking to a sibling more, I've got something going on with a vehicle, I want a new car. These are things that might kind of come up, but you might also pick up a new book or something that just kind of changes, you know, your perspective. This is busy, so a lot of running around, meetings, phone calls, text messages, that kind of stuff. And this is obviously hosted traditionally by Saturn, okay, which rules your house of money. It also has connections to the mind, and it's got a connection to Venus. So you're realizing that you need to kind of take time to stop and smell the roses. You need time to go on a road trip. You need time to take a little bit of time off, you know, so that way you kind of break up this monotonous routine and you're not falling back into patterns where you're overworking, or just there can be some bad habits that can be coming up in your daily routines, how you're eating and how you're treating your body. This is also co-ruled by Uranus, which is in the 6th house. So I would say, like, for Sag risings, like a short trip away can be like literally what the doctor ordered. Like, it can really kind of just give you a break in your routine and kind of really give you more clarity, and journaling and walking and just driving and listening to a good audiobook and being with a friend or a sibling, or even a partner, right? Because this trines Mars in your 7th can be really helpful for just kind of breaking stuff up. But watch for powerful ideas and communication. Keep in mind, Pluto's getting ready to leave your 2nd house and it's going into your 3rd. So you have to be careful of like letting fear run the show, all right? If you're looking for a good book, it's an old one, but it's good for the transit that you're going through. It would be by Gilbert, The Big Magic. She talks a lot about like having fear come along with you, but sit in the passenger seat, not the driver's seat, right? So we use fear as like motivation for kind of staying on track, but we don't let it run things. That's so appropriate with, you know, Pluto going into your 3rd house soon. So it might be something you want to check out. And that's pretty much it for you. I mean, it's supportive of your ascendant, and it's got trines to your 7th house. So it's opening up communication with other people. And I love the sextile it's making to Jupiter in your chart, because it's saying, hey, we can have fun, we can be playful, we can be creative, right? Especially if you're hoping to get really serious about like media. That could be something else that could be opening up for you. Good luck. For Capricorn and Capricorn rising, we have got a new moon that is shaping up for you. That's going to be taking place on the 22nd. That's going to be in Aquarius in your 2nd house of money, resources, and income. This is the time where you do your financial intention setting, your work revolving around your self-esteem, your security, your values, anything that you're hoping to kind of obtain. So a new moon here, you're setting these intentions, and it's going to be an interesting one because it involves connections between your chart ruler. So this is hosted primarily by Saturn. We've got Venus and Saturn in conjunction. So this is about work, and this is about resources. So it can be a time where work is saying we may or may not be able to give you more money, right? We may not be able to give you the raise. That might happen, maybe. Because of Venus, Saturn, but you know, Mars just went direct. So I think also you're finding that if you were taking like a side job or an odd job, or you're negotiating a salary, like more money is coming in a different way. Definitely pay attention the 22nd through the 24th, because all these planets are going to get activated in your 2nd house, and it's definitely about your spending power. But Venus, Saturn in conjunction for you is supposed to be positive, to be honest with you. Now, the co-ruler is going to be Uranus. So Uranus is in your 5th house, kind of shaking things up in regards to your creativity, your love life, your children. So that may also be kind of saying like there's a great deal of you really applying yourself to developing certain talents so you can suddenly bring more in a creative fashion. So where one door closes, another one opens, and you're being kind of creative with how you can go about making more money. Now, the one thing that I would say to kind of watch for is in the background, you still have Mercury in your 1st house that's waking up in conjunct Mars. So there is still a need to focus on health, especially mental health, and also like just your nervous system, with Mercury trine Uranus in your 5th. And the fact that that's in conjunct Mars. So kind of reconciling and dealing with either health or schedule changes. That can be something that can be supported, you know, through making changes in what you're eating, right? Or like what you're physically bringing into your daily routine in general. So just watch for some of that health stuff. But for the most part, I think this is actually probably pretty positive. Like I said, even if you get some negative news on one front, it's going to prompt you to kind of be creative and find a way to be able to bring in some extra resources. Good luck, Capricorn. We got new moon in Aquarius. For my Aquarians, it is an aqua party. New moon, new you. You guys know how this works. So this is going to be an opportunity for really powerful transformations and personal changes, okay? Because Pluto's right behind your ascendant here if you're a early degree Aquarius rising. New moon is really focusing on the self, right? We have Saturn, Venus, moon, and sun all in the first house. So it's like, how am I doing things differently? How am I being more eccentric, you know, out there, different, kind of going against the grain, making a statement? And what's really important for me, my body, my goals, right? Now it's interesting because the sun on the ascendant brings more attention to you. You're going to feel more lively and focused on yourself, but you're going to be catching the attention of other people because it rules your 7th. And the sun and the moon is also kind of bringing forward the need to work through issues potentially with others. And watch out, be mindful. You know, you can be a little bit more accident prone because the moon's getting involved. Venus and Saturn can also be talking about stiffness in the body or in the joints. Stay warm, right? Because Aquarius is cold. Try to focus on kind of circulation or maybe even like saunas or infrared stuff that can kind of get things moving so you're not stiff. Yoga can be good too. But obviously this is hosted by Saturn, which is conjunct Venus, and this is about you trying to see the bigger picture, or the brighter picture of like whatever situation you're in when it comes to like learning not to feel like you have to teach others, being better with your boundaries, being better with your philosophy, you know, trying to work out of what can be potentially some heavy moods with Venus, Saturn in your 1st house. Learning to love yourself as you are, embracing flaws or maybe even imperfections or what makes you different or unique, and self-love with Saturn, Venus in the 1st. Also co-ruled by Uranus, which is in your 4th house. Still shaking up, waking up things within your 4th house. I feel like this can be like home and family drama and like dramatic things that are happening and like suspenseful situations in regards to your living situation. And you may feel like there's just chaos going on with like your home or your family or your roommates or just, you know, people around you in your immediate living situation. And you're like, I gotta piece out of here. This isn't good for me, right? And like really, you'll realize through this transit, not just with the new moon, but also with the sun coming into conjunction with Saturn, that you're like, I need to have boundaries with other people. Like I can't just let people take advantage of my kindness or walk all over me, you know, the effects that it has on me energetically and also on the body. So there can be a sense of that. And then boom, you know, a couple weeks time, Pluto comes in, and this is about you really kind of like showing your power and your authority in a different way and really transforming your public image. So there's a lot brewing. It's not just Pluto getting ready to change signs. I think it's been the retrograde in your 12th. I think it's this new moon. I think I'm waiting for Sun to conjunct Saturn. And yeah, you may have to tell people no or no thank you, or you're not welcome here, or this doesn't work for me anymore. And yeah, people don't like it, whether it's your partners or your family, when you change the rules of the game. So be mindful. You can definitely get some pushback, right? The next full moon we're going to have is going to be in Leo. So that's going to be really interesting in your 7th house because it's going to dance with Uranus. We're going to see some Uranus squares. So focus more on what works and what's best for you right now. Okay. Good luck, Aquarius. Pisces and Pisces rising. We got a new moon that's getting ready to shape up. This is going to be on the 22nd in your 12th house of Aquarius. This is more hidden, spiritual, healing, dreamy, you know, connecting with the cosmos, talking to the aliens, doing all your 12th house stuff. 12th house to your sign. So this is the time of the year where everything's kind of getting flushed out right before we come into Pisces season. So there's a wrapping up of things, okay? Like the next 2 or 3 weeks can feel like, and that ended and that's done. And oh my gosh, what's coming and what's new? That's how the 12th house works. Getting a quiet space, you know, a little nook where you can read, maybe, you know, going and doing like a little staycation, an Airbnb, being out in nature, feeling like you just want to focus more on art and creativity and things that might be a little bit more fantasy and futuristic and stuff that's like hanging out, watching your favorite movies in bed. Like you're going to want to be resting or recuperating or having more private time. This is a much more quiet new moon for you. And it feels a little private to me. It feels a little hidden. So some of you guys might be opting to go on retreats or, you know, just kind of spending some time by yourself. Now this is hosted by Saturn, and Venus and Saturn are here. And so what's interesting is this might be a time where you're dedicating yourself to like reading or writing poetry, writing music, focusing on like, you know, putting together a script or a book, or just wanting to enjoy more time romantically behind the scenes too. But this can also be a difficult time communicating with other people because Venus rules your 3rd house of communication. It also rules your 8th house of transformation. So it can be a time where you're going through some kind of challenging time in communicating with siblings, communicating with friends, communicating with lovers. And you're just kind of like, I just want to check out for a little bit. Also co-ruled by Uranus in the 3rd house, which is waking up. And I see this as a time where there's like a lot of like dream interpretation and reflection and meditation, and you need alone time. And I think that if you're taking walks out in nature and you're focusing on clearing your mind, it can be really healing for you. I think that there can be a profound opportunity for you to be like writing and downloading and channeling. And if you're into astrology and like tarot and all this stuff, it's a really great time because that's going to give you clarity while you're kind of having that brief break from the world, right? So setting intentions in regards to healing and all of that stuff is also really important. And as we're coming into, you know, the next full moon, which will be in your 6th, that's going to be about physical health. This is more about spiritual and like mental. So the 6th and the 12th house, I mean, there is the kind of Piscean 12th house of how it affects us energetically and subconsciously or emotionally. And the 6th house is physically. So pay attention to like the subtle undercurrents of how you're feeling and the feeling that something's going to change. And if you have a really symbolic dream or if you have something significant that comes through in meditation, write it down because it's going to help you kind of work with it a little bit better and learn how to take some of that over the next 2 weeks and figure out how to kind of strengthen some of your physical routines in general. Okay. So that's kind of the long and short of what's going on this week. Hopefully this is a good new moon for you guys. I'm excited because I know that it's going to give all of us the opportunity to shift something in a very big way. I get a little kind of like, when I see the full moon in a couple weeks, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Let me know, where is the new moon happening in your chart? Do you have any placements around, like let's say 28, 29 degrees of Capricorn or 0 or 1 degrees of Aquarius? You guys, this is so for you. So you're going to see the effects of this for 6 months down the road and even then some. Remember in 2024, Pluto's going to hit 1 degree. So this is a new moon where you can set intentions that are really still going to be unfolding 1 year from now. And I'd love to hear from you guys. If you like my content, please do me a favor. It really helps the algorithm if you give me a thumbs up, if you guys subscribe, if you want to leave me a comment, if you want to share, sharing is caring. If you like my work and you want to donate, or if you want to get a personal reading with me, you can click my links below. You can go to my website and you can check out my availability. I've got some openings starting in March and April of 2023. I've also got a special that I'm running right now. I'm only running it for the next 2 weeks. I'm offering 2023 mini readings, just like a short audio file that you're going to get from me. That's going to be me telling you about some of the biggest transits in your natal chart. We're going to take a look at what Pluto and Saturn changing signs might do, the nodes changing signs, and how it's impacting your personal astrology. So I have got a special on that. I'm doing 50% off. Check out my website. It's the first thing that comes up under my bookings. It'll say 2023 mini report. You'll get that from me from within about a week. And yeah, we're going to run that special for another 2 weeks. We're doing live astrology this week, so stay tuned. We're going to put that link out soon. And on this next Sunday, I'm going to start my Astro 201 course. I'm going to start teaching transits and return charts and predictive methods in astrology. So it's my level 2 for those of you guys who already took my level 1. If you want to join me, we've got some space left. We got a couple seats left. So please do consider signing up. We're going to be taking people, I think, all the way up maybe until about Friday. So make sure that you check that out if you want to get on that. You can sign up and learn with me. It's going to be 8 consecutive weeks. We're going to be meeting on Sundays, and we're going to be doing courses in my live digital classroom with about 40 other students. So I'm really looking forward to that. And if you want to learn more about astrology and how I do what I do, please join me. Otherwise, I will see all of you guys very soon. We'll be unpacking more of these transits. Probably going to talk a little bit about the Sun Pluto. Probably going to talk also a little bit about the Venus Saturn later this week. I look forward to it. Enjoy the rest of your week. Have a very happy new moon, and I'll see all of you guys very soon. Take care.